kind of guide you through how we're going to take on that case and how that's going to move forward. And then moving on here, so what is our mission, right? So we want to basically build healthy families and communities and foster those. That's really the overall gist of what we're trying to do. And we do that from a strengths-based perspective. So we want to kind of build on those strengths that a family unit might already have or a couple might already have. And we want to also kind of bring up any deficits in some other areas where we can help with some skill building processes and some treatment to kind of address those issues. And then we also do collaborate with a lot of community agencies. Santa Barbara County has a lot of services available. So we also try to coordinate with their off-base partners to provide kind of a holistic approach to treating these families and these individuals when they come to our doors. So what do we do to work towards that mission, right? So we have, again, a lot of services that we offer with such a small team. But we do have individual and family counseling. We have Melissa's New Parent Support Program. We offer some parenting education classes. We have a couple different versions of some couples communication skills courses that we offer. We have stress management classes. We get involved in some violence prevention events. Right now, if you look around the base, there's some propaganda about domestic violence awareness and prevention month because it is October, so there's a lot of purple color kind of themed kind of, I guess, what do you call it, visual aids kind of that we posted around the base. So you'll see those at the entrance of like the PCC, over at the Breakers Dining Facility and things like that. We also do, again, Miss Anna for Victim Advocate Services, which she has her own slide here in a moment. And we've got, again, resource connection to downtown county agencies. And also we have, if there's not local, Ms. Gina is here in the clinic and she can get people connected with services. I mean, really, there's no limit to how far away she's willing to connect people with. She's sent families as far away as Florida to get specialized treatment before. So we can really get just about anything these families might need. We can take care of that as long as we know what's going on and can address them with the services that we offer. And then we do some outreach events. COVID's kind of put a damper on that a little bit, but this is one of those examples. And the most recent one I can think of other than this was just pre-COVID. I went over and talked with Lompoc High School. We had some seminars with them out there and talked about teen dating violence awareness. And that was a really cool dialogue that we were able to create with the seniors out there at the school campus. We do some outreach events like going out to wing runs and things like that. We'll try to make sure that we're visible and that we're available for people to ask questions or ask us about services and find out about what we can offer. And then we also try to do some commanders calls visits. So as a key spouse, you may be aware that, hey, family advocacy is showing at the brief at one of our commanders calls. And that's just to kind of get the word out there too about who we are and how to access our services and what we can provide to individuals and families. So then moving forward here, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa, who can talk about her part of the program.
Hello, everybody. I wish I could see your faces. Dwayne, there's no way to turn everybody's video camera on.
We have you on the view, Melissa.
Okay. All right.
I think, let me see, gallery view, to see if that works. Does that work?
Okay.
How's that? Did that work?
No, I get to just see you. That's okay.
Trying.
So I wanted to.
Speaker. There we go. Go ahead.
I wanted to see everyone's faces because I wanted to thank you all for what you're doing. And I don't know if you've heard it enough, but being a key spouse is just critical for a lot of these families. And so thank you for volunteering your time to do that. And yeah, it's just a wonderful program. So I'm not sure how many of you know about New Parent Support. I'm hoping that many of you have heard of it before. So I'm just going to kind of run through it a little bit. So New Parent Support has been in every branch of the service, whether it's Navy, Army, Air Force. It's been around for about 30 years. Some of the bases are a little more active than others. It's offered overseas and stateside both. And so I want you to envision, I bet many of you have children. If not, you're maybe planning on having kids, but I want you to remember back what it was like when you found out you were pregnant. And that may have been a really joyful time for you, like really exciting, like you had planned for it. Or for other of you, it may have been, sorry, my name is Melissa Pellot, P-E-L-L-O-T. For many of you, it may have been kind of an unknown period of time, like excitement, but a little bit scary too. Maybe you just got married, maybe your spouse just got orders, and now you guys are moving to a brand new area with no support system. You don't know anybody. And then you're expected to learn how to raise a baby, right? And so that's kind of where my program comes in. Some of our folks need maybe a little bit more support than others. Maybe they have a history of some mental illness like depression or anxiety. Maybe they've got some trauma in their background and you know, they need help processing that, or not sure what normal looks like for parenting skills. And so those families I try to tailor a little bit closer to try to provide extra support. So each family that I work with, it looks a little bit different. And folks are eligible for my program from the time that they're find out they're pregnant and or adopting. And that can be their first baby, or it can be their 10th baby. It doesn't matter. And we know, sometimes we assume that, you know, it's your 10th time or whatever, right? So you should know what you're doing, but different babies can change the family dynamics for sure, especially in blended families. So I can work with all those families all the way until their kiddos are 3. And so I feel really lucky and really blessed to be a part of families' lives during this really kind of exciting time in their lives. And pre-COVID, primarily I did home visits, which is just excellent for families, just like you guys elected today to be at home, to be with your kiddos and be doing other things. That really helps families feel a little bit more at ease, and I can help guide them during that time too. So what do I do exactly? So again, it's individual for each family, but often, especially my first time moms and dads, you know, I can do things like education on you know, preparing for labor and delivery, breastfeeding, newborn care, just kind of some of those basics. Or it might be working with a toddler, like on potty training, or how do we get through those terrific twos together, kind of thing. So it really just depends on the family. I do have some additional certifications that I'd like you guys to know about as part of advertising, or really knowing your families and what needs that they have. And one of the biggest concerns or challenging times is learning how to breastfeed and having support with breastfeeding. So I am an IBCLC, which is a certified lactation consultant, so I can provide that service. I am a certified car seat technician, and so there's a couple other guys here on the base over in the safety office that are certified, but then I'm certified as well, so I can help people check their car seats. 3 out of 4 car seats are installed improperly, and oftentimes it's just a little tweaking, and we can help correct that for them. I am certified in teaching infant massage, and so a lot of my families really like that a lot. And it can help with that. It's a little bit more challenging, some of these things to be doing virtually, but I have continued to do virtual visits with all my families through COVID, and I continue to do that. So that's a really important piece for our families that often normally can feel isolated, and now we throw a pandemic on top of it. So I am just another connection point. I can also help them with local referrals to local resources like Early Head Start and WIC and things like that too. I've been doing this a long time, and I have found that having kind of a warm handoff by someone that they trust can be really helpful. So that would be where you guys would step in. And so you can either provide them with my phone number and or make the call together with them of saying, hey, let's call Melissa, she can be a really good support for you. And that just makes them that transition a little bit smoother. My program is completely voluntary. And again, I just feel blessed to be working with these families. So any questions on that at all? And I'll wait here to see if anything pops up. And while we wait for that a second, I do teach some classes on BASE that I want you guys to be aware of. One is OB launch, and that would be geared towards moms and dads, sorry, and their partners as well, that just found out that they're pregnant. So it's all about how to have a healthy pregnancy, getting referrals placed to things like WIC and First 5 program and things like that, and then learning about fetal growth and development as well. So that is offered monthly. It's always the second Tuesday of every month at 3 o'clock. And I just switched that, so we are doing that in-house here at the Med Group. So that's one class. And then we have our Dads the Basics class. And Seth and some of our other experienced dads teach that class. It's only for dads in the room. So it's very laid back, and we have really good feedback as far as the dads that attend just feeling like they got their questions answered. And that one, right now, we're doing it every 2 months, I think, right? Yeah, depending on, okay, every month or two, just depending on how many people have signed up for it. So again, they can call us here. And then bundles for babies. I know that Dwayne's probably already talked about that, but I'm always there to for that as well. So, and that's offered quarterly, and we're going to have our first in-house one this week. And so send families this way too. So, okay, any questions at all? Nothing. Okay. Thanks again, you guys.
So,
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Okay, if you guys have any questions that you think of later for Melissa, you can either let me know at the end of this or give her a call here at the clinic, whichever is easiest for you. And then so I'm going to move forward a little bit here. I think the next one is Anna's slide typically. So I'm going to try to do my best at briefing her program, but I'm not Anna, so bear with me here. So Anna's role is basically the first point of contact when you talk with someone who has been the victim of some kind of maltreatment, right? So whether that's so it's a little bit different than what SAPR talks about usually, because a lot of their stuff is sexual assault related, right? So this is all about domestic violence. It could be sexual assault. It could be maltreatment of children. It could be emotional abuse. It could be like someone threatening suicide, like psychological abuse, like, hey, if you divorce me, I'm going to kill myself kind of thing. So that can actually qualify as a form of emotional abuse, and we would open up a referral for that. But Anna's going to be the first point of contact anytime you hear about suspected or confirmed or known maltreatment, right? And the reason for that is Anna is very well versed in how to navigate the restricted versus unrestricted reporting. And SAPR talks about this a lot as well. So just to kind of reiterate a little bit of that, if they choose to do a restricted report, they can still get medical treatment. They can still get counseling for any trauma they might have endured, right? But the big difference is that they can also use the restricted reporting option with family advocacy, even if it's a physical maltreatment type of incident or emotional incident, not just a sexual maltreatment incident. So that's kind of the key difference there. But she can help them navigate that lane and keep that a restricted report. And that's critical for the key spouse group, because a lot of times you might be talking with a member spouse or something like that that doesn't want the unit to be aware of what's going on yet. They're not comfortable kind of making that, so to speak, public knowledge at this level. They don't want a full, security forces investigation opened up maybe on what's happening. They just really want to get some support and figure out the best way to kind of move forward, getting the care that they might need for what they're experienced or what they have experienced, right? So that's why it's critical to get a hold of Anna. And she does have a 24-hour crisis number just in case. And I'm going to pull that up here and give that to you so you have that for reference. And if you need it from Mr. Purser afterwards, I'll make sure he has that as well. But so the 24-hour DAVA helpline is 805-222-6755. And the acronym is DAVA, but it's the Domestic Abuse Victim Advocate is the full title for Anna's position. And let's see. So some other things she can do that people don't realize is that she can help people with legal. She's not an attorney. She doesn't provide actual legal advice, but she can help them and support them through the legal process. So if they want someone to escort them to a trial, she can do that. If she wants some someone to partner with them for talking with law enforcement, she can do that as well. A lot of times people decide that after they've kind of gone down the restricted reporting path, they want to make it an unrestricted report. You might have a spouse that says, look, I don't want, whatever happened to me to continue to happen, or I don't want that person to potentially be able to victimize someone else. So they might decide to go unrestricted at some point. She can help with that process as well and what that looks like. She can also help. A critical component is with the establishment of civilian protection orders or military protection orders as well. So if there's someone who's in danger or feels unsafe, she can help establish those protective orders and even get extensions on those if need be until that person can set up a safe environment or have some protective factors in place. She helps with safety planning as well. That's another component that she engages in. So critical role, Ms. Anna Banda. And then I talked about some of the courses that we do offer. There's some other courses as well. We've got quite a list of courses, and we can actually spin up some courses based on requests too. So if there's something that you think would be helpful for any of the families that you're working with or any of the spouses you're working with, feel free to call over and ask the question. If you offer something like that, we may have workbooks already in house. We've got a lot of workbooks on courses we just don't get a lot of requests for, but we can definitely spin up a course and address that topic depending on what it is that you're wanting support with. And let's see, moving forward here, that's kind of what I had on the slides for what we offer as far as services go, and how we can support you and your unit's families and members. So if you have any questions, I'm kind of to that point. And again, if you have anything for Melissa, I'll be glad to pass that on to her with your contact info so she can contact you directly about that. Or Miss Anna, for that matter. If you have any questions about the victim advocate role, I can forward those to her as well. She's just right on the other side of the horseshoe here. I can go over and hand her those questions. So feel free to ask at this time if there's anything that you'd like me to further explain or expand upon, or if you have any questions about anything specific.
I have a question.
Sure.
For the DAVA, does she have an age limit like the SARC does, or can she help any type of family member, an age range, whether they have to be beneficiary living with them? Because I know the SARC has kind of like that age range and that limitation. What about the DAVA?
Yeah, so we don't have those sorts of limitations. Now, if we're going to establish a case with the individual, they do have to be a TRICARE beneficiary for ongoing treatment. However, even if they aren't TRICARE beneficiaries, we're still allowed to safety plan with them initially. And then we can still get them connected to services downtown too. So don't think that just because they're not TRICARE beneficiaries or something like that, you can't call Anna. She is more than happy to assist with people who aren't beneficiaries, and her contract allows her to do like some impromptu sessions just to make sure there's safety established within that family system.
Okay, there's a second part to that. So if is a situation where someone's trying to leave a domestic abuse relationship and they get divorced, since they started helping them before while they were still TRICARE beneficiaries, will they be able to continue helping them after they've already separated, they've gotten divorced, and they're no longer with that member?
Yeah, I'll double check with Miss Anna on that, but I've never heard of something happening where a person still wanted her services and she wasn't able to support them. Her contract is pretty flexible as far as her being able to answer questions and provide support assistance, but I'll double check with her on that. What's your information so I can get back to you?
My name is Katie, and I can message you. I can post it on the chat.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that'd be great. That way I can make sure on that. There may be some specifics that I'm unaware of, so I just want to make sure I'm giving you good information. Any other questions or
So Seth,
yes.
Is there a safe house if somebody feels like how does that work? How would that work if the key spouse, somebody contacts the key spouse, hey, this is going on. Is there some sort of something set up to get somebody out of that situation and put them in a safe house, or how do we do that?
So there is, come on in, Melissa. So there is some resources for that, right? Now the problem is that the safe house space is very limited in our community. So generally it's not immediate, and that's been an issue. So what we try to do is work with the units and see if the units can they're supposed to have some funds set aside so that they can at least provide some transitional kind of plan, so they can get them into like a hotel room maybe for the weekend until we can set up a safety plan and figure out what's going to happen going forward. So each unit's supposed to have some funding through the first sergeants set aside for that. Now it kind of varies on the units on how much they might have set aside or what they're willing to do, but we really do try to work with them to make sure that they're offering up a feasible plan to establish safety. And then we will still try to work with downtown agencies. It's just that we haven't been impressed with the ability to get people in right away. So that's why we want these first sergeants to kind of get involved with their members as well.
That's good info. Thank you.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Is there anything else? Oh yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Sorry about that. Thank you, Melissa. So Melissa just gave me her direct line so that I can provide that information to you in case you have any other questions for Melissa specifically. So that's going to be 606-3166. Appreciate it.
Put that on the chat.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm going to put that on the chat right now.
Oh, perfect.
Hi, Seth. I had a question just for making people aware of a lot of these services. Do you all have any sort of flyer or advertisement or anything like that, like especially for like the services that Melissa provides that we could use to perhaps put on like our Squadron Facebook pages or email out to spouses, anything along those lines?
So the closest thing to that we do is we do about like a trifold pamphlet, and we get that out electronically to all the first sergeants. So because that's got like class dates and things like that on it that we're offering. So we do that about every quarter. We'll put a new version of that out. So what I'll do is I will request that they forward that to the key spouses. Because if anybody knows how to get a hold of the key spouses, I would hope the first sergeants would. But if there's a better way to do it, let me know. I'll definitely request that they forward that to the key spouses so that you guys have that same information. And the most important
send that to me, Seth.
Yeah,
you can send it to me and I'll send it to all the key spouses.
Oh, perfect. So we'll have it. You might get it twice. And that's great.
Yeah.
So good stuff. So yeah, so that'll be a one way that's a good plan. I'm glad that you brought that question up. And then the other thing too would be just to encourage anybody that you think could benefit from any of the stuff that we talked about today. Just have them call our main line, the 805-606-8217. And the techs know about all the classes that we're offering. They have a copy of the trifold. They can talk about those and they can actually pull up the class roster even and get people into these classes. And a lot of these classes are you don't have to have a referral for. Heck, you don't even need to be associated with the military. We can have people from downtown attend a lot of these, space permitted. So they're available to anybody that wants to attend. There's very few of our classes that are by referral only. And that's usually for when there's already a confirmed case of maltreatment and like an alleged offender would be required to attend something. But most of them are open to the public. So yeah, but great question. Thank you. And it sounds like we got a good plan going forward to get you guys all that information.
And that's your number too, right, Seth? 805-606-8217?
Absolutely. They can come. They'll come back here and knock on my door and say, hey, so-and-so is trying to reach you. So don't hesitate to give that number a call and ask for me specifically, and they'll give me the message.
Okay, great. And you have my email. So anything that you would like to communicate at any time to the key spouses, I send them emails all the time, and they get tired of me sending email. But I send them a couple a day usually. And
nice.
And then usually Katie, if I ask her if she just sees the need to, she'll put it up on our Facebook page. The key spouses have a private Facebook page that they can get information on that too.
Oh, very cool. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that'd be really helpful. Okay, I'm writing down Katie's information here because on the phone it's a little bit different than on the desktop here. So
okay, and if you want to contact her, you can just zip me an email and I'll send her something.
Great. Okay, thanks much. All right. Okay, any other questions about what we talked about today?
I have a question. We're actually a reserve squadron, and some of our people live here on base or in town locally, and others live in many different states. Would you guys still be able to provide services to them or help find them services, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's always a little bit of that gray area kind of thing, right? When you have these other kind of tenant units or whatnot. So generally, if they're geographically located within our area, we're going to provide services. Even if like their administrative command is somewhere else, a lot of times what will happen is we'll just check with their administrative area's family advocacy program and coordinate that. And we'll say, hey, we plan to take them because they're geographically located near us. Is that okay with you guys? And as long as they almost always say, oh yeah, please take it, because they don't want to do nothing but virtual sessions or whatever. So, and that's an option too. But generally that's how that works. And if they're supposed to be at Vandenberg, but they're, TDY somewhere or out somewhere else, they can check in with that local family advocacy, and they might do like maybe like an initial intake with them or something like that, and then call us and say, hey, they're actually assigned to Vandenberg, but they're here temporarily. Do you guys want us to transfer the case back to Vandenberg when they move back to Vandenberg, kind of thing? So yeah, we coordinate with all the other, Army calls it something a little bit different. I think that's family services is what they call it, not family advocacy program. But anyway, so we'll coordinate with whoever it is, so that we can make sure that we get the right people servicing that individual.
And if key spouses, if the key spouses, if you can't remember Seth, or you lose your number or whatever, just contact me and I can get you in direct contact with Seth or some help through that, so we can kind of cross-pollinate that thing.
Hey, sounds good. Yeah. Any other questions so far? This is great stuff. Good questions all around. Well, I know how these go, so you might think of some afterwards, but like Mr. Purser said, just let him know and he'll get us the info and forward any information, and it may be some stuff that he wants to be aware of as well. So that works out really well. But I really want to thank you guys again, just like Melissa said, and just echo that man, I used to be active duty in LRS, and that key spouse thing was always like this. Okay, who's going to be the key spouse thing, because there's a lot of questions that you have as a key spouse, because it doesn't seem like it's a super structured kind of protocol. And it's better now than it used to be, but man, when it was new, it was like everything was in the gray, right? Nobody knew what was supposed to be happening. So I'm glad that it's a little bit more structured now, and I'm so glad that you guys are willing to step up to the plate and kind of take on this role and the responsibility involved with being a key spouse. And that can be such a huge role and be such a lifesaver for these families that just don't know who to connect with and don't know about what services are available. So thank you guys so much for what you're doing, and look forward to seeing you guys again when we have the opportunity. And thanks so much, Mr. Purser, for having us here today. I do appreciate that, and I still love that beard. I can't stop staring at that thing.
My wife hates it. You got to tell my wife that it's okay.
Right.
Hey, can I ask you one more question, Seth, before you go? Just to clarify for us and for me, as a key spouse, the difference between restricted and unrestricted reporting, and what kind of situation can you give us an example of that would need that the differentiation between those two?
Yeah, so let's say you have a spouse who says, something happened to me, but I really don't want the unit to kind of be spun up, right? On like all this stuff. I don't want my business kind of put out there, right? And I don't want necessarily security forces investigation started, because I'm not ready for that to happen, right? I don't want that kind of scrutiny about what's happening, right? But I do need some support. I really need some help. It might be that, maybe a friend of the family sexual assaulted somebody, right? In the family, and they're going like, hey, I want to get the treatment that I need for this because it was traumatic and it was a violation, and I want the physical evidence maybe or something like that. So that's where Miss Anna can kind of come in and go, look, I can get you to the med group. I can get you connected with North County Rape Crisis Services if need be. I can do all this stuff, kind of like what SAPR does if it's a sexual role. But we can do that again for physical stuff too, like if there's bruising or something that we need to get, we can have alert photo, take pictures. We can have them go see their primary care doctor and still have it be in that restricted lane where it doesn't get reported to security forces, it doesn't get reported to the unit, right? But they can still get them the treatment. Now, the issue is, like, let's say they go to the first sergeant and they tell the first sergeant, hey, something happened to me, here's what happened and here's who did it, right? At that point, it's automatically unrestricted, right? Because now that first sergeant has obligations by AFI. They have to let security forces know and let the family advocacy know, so we can open a referral. Now, the other thing that happens in our lane, if it's restricted, right, is we don't follow our normal protocol in-house. If it's a restricted report, we don't, because normally what happens is when we get a referral and we open up a case, we do what's what's called a CRB, right? It's a Central Registry Board panel, and think of it like a mini court hearing, right? And the members aren't there, the family members aren't there, but we have like somebody from the JA there, we have security forces there, we have OSI there, we have usually the vice wing commander, but since Colonel Reeves left, we don't have anybody, so it's Colonel Hunsberger, the MSG commander that chairs these boards, right? So you got a lot of key players at these sessions, right? And what happens is you share the information about that referral that you know about, and then everyone votes whether or not that meets the definition of Air Force maltreatment, right? And if it does, then that sort of mandates to a degree, right? It's still a voluntary program, but it kind of establishes the expectation that this family or individual will engage in treatment going forward if it meets the criteria, right? If it doesn't meet criteria, we close out as resolved, no big deal. So the way the restricted report plays into that is it doesn't go to that CRB. None of that case gets talked about at the CRB, so it will not. So if people really don't want their business put out there, the restricted report can be really helpful because the group commander is going to hear about it. None of those agencies that are around that table are going to even. It's not even going to be brought up as an incident at that voting process. So it can be a really effective way to keep that kind of under control as far as the dissemination of information goes.
So it's a restricted report is under the radar.
Correct. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And then unrestricted is everybody knows. Then
it's full blown.
No?
Right. Yeah, there's no privacy at that point, right? Because it's not. I mean, obviously, there's limits to when people come in and talk to us about what happened. There is still some limits of confidentiality there. We're not going to share it outside of the CRB process. We're not going to share it outside of our clinic. But the commander and first sergeant are going to be all spun up on what's happening. So we can't promise that it won't. That the rumor mill might start, right? Because now more and more people have their kind of hands in the pot on what this information is. And it's not like we're going to be putting it out there in the public knowledge, but it's still, we can't control the information as well when it's an unrestricted report.
So if a key spouse talks to a spouse and say, just as a hypothetical, somebody's got a black eye and the key spouse says, wow, what happened? She said, well, my husband got mad and it was my fault, or, and they hit me. The key spouse, but she says, I don't want anybody to know. The key spouse then, if she tells the first sergeant, then it becomes unrestricted?
Automatically unrestricted report. Yeah, because now the first sergeant has obligations now that they have to call us. If they don't, they're in violation of AFI 4301, right? So the best advice would be for that key spouse to say, you know what, even if you decide you don't want to do anything else, let me please get you in touch with Miss Anna Banda, right? Because she can help you know what options are available to you, even if you don't want to do anything, right? Still have the conversation with her. And Anna is so good at helping these people know what services are available in case they ever do want to make a difference, right? And do something different. And then they can keep that restricted for as long as they want. And Anna will periodically kind of encourage them to consider going unrestricted, because at some point, unless they want to stay in that abusive environment, they're probably going to want to get some treatment for this alleged offender, right? So at some point she's going to, help them try to make that decision that hey, maybe it's better if now we kind of go ahead and make this unrestricted so that you can make sure that person gets the services they need, so they're not doing this to you anymore, right? Or to anyone else for that matter. So, but they can keep it restricted as long as they want to, forever if they want. So
then probably in that situation, the best referral is to you guys. To family advocacy.
To Miss Banda. Because she can navigate through that whole process with them and still get them connected to all the downtown agencies and everything else that might be able to support them in their particular situation.
Great.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So I'm a new key spouse, and I actually don't know many of the members in our unit yet. So how are you guys reaching out? I mean, asking the other key spouses too, how are you reaching out and letting people know that you are there for them? My husband happens to be the first sergeant. Yes. So I know some things that happened, but I don't think people knew to call me versus him.
Copy. Yeah. So that's always the dilemma, right? So establishing a key spouse is one thing. The first sergeant maintaining the key spouse roster is another thing. And then making sure that the families know about the key spouse availability is huge, right? So that's something that, really, I kind of put that ball in the commander's court, like, hey, that commander should be putting out there that, hey, we do have a key spouse. Here she is. We've invited her to the commander's call. I want her to introduce herself, or himself. And tell you about a little bit about them and that they're available. And then also that's when you might have the opportunity to go, hey, if you talk to me about a concern or an issue, here's what I can do to help you, right? I can connect you with the victim advocate, I can connect you with family advocacy if that's what you want, and get you, the services that they offer, because there's a lot of things that we can support them with, and just kind of push that. We always ask the first sergeants push it too, right? And they have to do annual training with me. And I can promise you that unless your husband's a brand new shirt within like the last week, he's got my training. So yeah, because I had to meet with him online to do the training.
He just did the training last week. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I've hit just about every first sergeant on base. I think there might be one new additional shirt that I haven't met with yet that just got put in the position. But every commander, including the group commander, including the wing commander, and including the command chief, have all been trained by me within the past 2 months. So every single person has had a full-blown family advocacy leadership based training that's a lot more extensive than what I talked about today, actually. So they are very spun up on what services we have and how we can support people, and the restricted reporting options for that matter. That's a slide specifically for that training. So yeah, we go into all that with them. So they should be very versed in what we can offer. So then if you kind of piggyback on that, at a commander's call or something like that, man, you're really helping us get that word out there that's available to these families, right?
Okay, yeah, and all we've done so far is set up a Slack account, but I think there's just a handful of spouses that signed up. So, and
yeah. The other thing we try to do too is put stuff out on the Cove periodically. In fact, this week I'll have a video coming out, hopefully this afternoon, that talks about our services, and it's going to be a little bit, I don't want to say morbid, but yeah, kind of morbid, because I'm going to talk about the ultimate consequence of not putting an intervention in place, which could be fatalities, right? And some numbers on fatalities associated with domestic violence, because that can be a real eye opener. So I'm going to have some information about that in this video. So we do that kind of stuff kind of periodically on the Hawks Cove page that Miss Pauline Chewy heads. So that's also another source of information that you can refer the spouses to as well. And they should all be following that because there's a lot of good information that's put out there about, how to cope with COVID and social isolation and meal planning and eating healthy while you're socially isolating and all these other things that can be really helpful just for families in general. So it's a great source for Vandenberg families to be part of that Hawks Cove page.
And where's the Hawks Cove page?
It's a Facebook page managed by Miss Pauline Chewy. Yeah, if you search for a Hawks Cove, it'll come up.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
No problem. Yeah, good stuff. Any other questions at all? Let me check the chat. I see it's a little bit weird on the phone doing it, but let me see here. Okay, great. Looks good. Yeah, any other questions before I go today?
I have a question for the restricted reporting. If somebody's in a situation where it's repeated, but they don't want to do anything, they just want to report it, is it like every time it would just be restricted, like at each event? And then let's say like 5 years from now, they decide that they want to do something about it. They would just have to go back and just, let's say there was like 13 reports, then all 13 would just go from restricted to unrestricted, and then all of those would be addressed separately or just all grouped together since it's the same offender?
Good question. It would all be grouped together. So what would happen if they said, hey, I want to go unrestricted because I just can't do this anymore, right? I need to make sure that that something happens here. Then what we would do is we create one incident and we would say, hey, here's the most recent incident based on the referral report. However, patient also reports that she has been a victim since whatever date and approximately like 13 episodes of physical maltreatment or whatever. And then that would be included in the initial assessment process with both the victim and the alleged offender to try to get more information about how long that had been going on, you know, what the severity of the incidents were. Was it kind of regression where, you know, over time got more severe, or what was happening in those situations, right? And then we would tailor the intervention plan specific to what they wanted to achieve. You know, some people might still say, you know, I just want him or her to get help so they stop hurting me, you know. Yeah, it's happened 13 times, but I still want to stay together and I want to believe they can change, right? So we're going to do a complete psychosocial assessment on that alleged offender to see what we can offer as far as treatment goes to get them on the path and not being abusive anymore, right? And we have programs in place that are designed to do that. So, but unless it goes unrestricted, we really can't kind of, I don't want to say strong arm, but commanders can't strong arm them to attend treatment, right? So yeah, so really encourage them strongly, I guess, to attend treatment and the process for personal growth going forward. Does that help answer that? Sorry. Yeah, so one incident, right? But we'll lump the description of that, how long it's been going on and the severity of it, and the number of instances into that kind of assessment that we do initially with the victim.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Great, no problem. Yeah. Anything else? This is all wonderful, wonderful questions. You guys are amazing. Okay, well, again, I know how this goes. I know that questions come up a lot of times after the session's over. You think of some things. So if so, please let Mr. Person know and he'll get the word to me. And again, thank you guys for everything and really appreciate your time today. And have a great day and week. And we'll talk to you later. Take care. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for holding the training today. We really appreciate it. It's been a great session, and I'm sure that we'll be hopefully be able to use those services more in a more way that we understand exactly what's happening. So thank you.
Hey, thank you. Take
Tell
care.
Melissa we said thank you too.
Will do. All right, you guys have a good one.
Okay.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.